Hi, this is Richard from Pivot, and in this video, we're going to help you perform the startup and calibration of Starbucks water filtration unit. The first thing you're going to want to make sure is that the water filtration unit is connected to Pivot stub-out manifold. You're going to want to make sure that the water in valve of the stub-out manifold is in the open on position, and you're going to want to make sure that water pressure is no lower than 40 psi, but no greater than 80 psi. Optimally, it should be no greater than 65 psi coming in. So if you're going to put a pressure reduction valve or something up in front of this Pivot stub-out manifold, you probably want to dial that down to no more than 65 psi. Before you start the startup and calibration, you want to make sure you have all your tools. You're going to need an air pressure gauge, an air pump, an adjustable wrench, a TDS water meter, a cup, and Teflon tape. We recommend that you come up on our website where we have the startup and calibration guide that you could download, lots of diagrams that'll help assist you along the way for the startup and calibration. A reminder, you must be a Pentair certified technician to perform the startup or work under Pivot's certification. If you work under Pivot certification, you need to follow the online form, put all your steps in, and at the end, submit that online form so that we could start up the product warranties. In this step, you want to make sure that the Starbucks water filtration unit is ready for startup and calibration. Start by making sure the water filtration unit is in the exact spot that it will permanently reside. This should be under Pivot's stub-out manifold. Make sure that the water filtration unit is placed 2 inches off the rear wall for proper ventilation and that the front wheels are locked. Next, make sure the 4 stainless steel hoses that connect the water filtration unit to Pivot stub-out manifold are plumbed and connected. At a minimum, the city water in should be plumbed on the top of Pivot stub-out manifold. Next, make sure that Pivot's internal water manifold is set to normal mode. You could check the valves against the label on the inside door panel of the water filtration unit or in diagram 2 of the startup and calibration guide. These valves should be set to normal mode with the exception of valves 1, 2, 3, and 4. These input-output valves need to be in the closed off position. Next, make sure the city water in valve on Pivot's stub-out manifold is in the open on position. The water should be pressurized to at least 40 psi. This can be verified by the pressure gauge on Pivot's stub-out manifold or above valve 1 of Pivot's internal water manifold. Next, make sure that the sanitary hose from the water filtration unit is installed and routed to a drain source. Next, make sure the power cord from the water filtration unit is plugged into an electrical receptacle and the green indicator light on Pivot's power-in module is illuminated. This receptacle should be on a dedicated 15-amp circuit and non-GFCI. In this step, you're going to locate and inventory all of the filters and items that you will need to perform the startup. All filters and membranes are in their original packaging and are shipped inside the water filtration unit from Pivot. Locate these boxes and remove them from the water filtration unit prior to initiating the startup and calibration. If there are any missing filters or membranes, stop and do not continue with the startup and calibration until they are located. The test hose is coiled up and labeled as such. You should have 1 pre-filter, 3 rear carbon filters, 2 front carbon filters, 2 membranes, and 1 test hose. In this step, you're going to locate and inventory the documentation that you need to perform this startup and calibration. This documentation is in a documentation pouch that is affixed to the inside door of the water filtration unit. You will have a water filtration setup sheet. This setup sheet contains vital information concerning the water filtration unit and the settings to be used for this calibration. You will find a small package containing an O-ring lubricant. And remember to leave everything else in the pouch as you found it. This includes all the documentation and the keys. In this step, you're going to install the pre-filter. Apply the O-ring lubricant to the O-ring. Then, insert the O-ring and the pre-filter cartridge into the housing. Make sure you remove the plastic packaging around the pre-filter cartridge. Install the pre-filter and hand tighten the housing onto the base. And be mindful not to over-tighten the housing. Pivot provides a second O-ring in case there is an issue with the O-ring provided with the pre-filter. This spare O-ring is in the Pivot document pouch affixed to the inside of the right door. In this step, you're going to use your air pressure gauge to check the pressure in the 40-gallon RO accumulator tank. Confirm that this tank pressure is 50 psi or adjust it if needed using your air pump. Check the pressure in the 20-gallon blended accumulator tank. Confirm that the pressure is between 15 and 20 psi or adjust if needed utilizing your air pump. Use your air pressure gauge to check the pressure of the tank on the booster pump. Confirm that this tank pressure is 45.5 psi or adjust if needed utilizing your air pump. There are 2 RO plugs installed in the receivers of the RO where the front carbon filters are inserted. Make sure that these 2 RO plugs are there and properly seated. In this step, you're going to install the rear 3 carbon filters into their receivers on the RO. When installing these filters, use the O-ring lubricant to lubricate all O-rings located on the filters. Make sure these filters are properly seated. In this step, you are going to check the brine tank. Pivot has added approximately 80 pounds of salt into the brine tank at the factory. Make sure that the brine tank has salt in it and tap the sides of the brine tank to make sure that all the salt's in the bottom of the tank without any gaps. Plug the box plug for the water softener head unit into the provided R3 receptacle. In this step, you are going to set up the water softener. Use the head unit installed on top of the polyglass vessels to start up and calibrate the water softener system. Pivot sets most of the values at the factory. When the water filtration unit is unplugged for more than 48 hours, some of the values get reset. See the next step if you need to enter any of the other values. Press and hold either the up or down buttons until the parameter display reads TD. Set the time to the correct current local time. Press the extra cycle button to accept the time change. Press and hold the up and down buttons for 5 seconds on the head unit to enter normal programming mode. Press the extra cycle button to accept each setting and move to the next. DO. Check that the day override is set to every 7 days. Note, if this is not set to 7 days and you have to change it, the system got reset and you must perform the next step. RT. Check that the time of regeneration for override is set to 2 o'clock a.m. Note, if this is not set to 2 o'clock a.m. and you have to change it, the system got reset and you must perform the next step. H. Water hardness is set to 20 grains of hardness. Adjust the value to 1 grain per gallon above the test at this location. This water hardness number is provided on Pivot's water filtration setup sheet. RC. Check that the reserve capacity is set to 40 gallons held in reserve. Note, if this is not set to 40 gallons and you have to change it, the system got reset and you must perform the next step. Do not perform this step unless there was a complete reset of the head unit for the water softener or if you need to check all values in the system. Press and hold either the up or down buttons until the parameter display reads TD. Adjust the time to 12:01 p.m. and press the extra cycle button. Press and hold the up and down buttons on the head unit together for 5 seconds to enter Master Programming Mode. DF. Display setting should be set to gallons, GAL. VT. Valve type should be set to standard downflow single backwash, DF1B. CT. Control type to meter flow, immediate, FI. NT. The number of tanks should be set to 2. TS. Tank in service should be set to U2. C. Unit capacity should be set to 18. H. Water hardness is set to 20 grains of hardness. Adjust the value to 1 grain per gallon above test at this location. This water hardness number is provided on Pivot's water filtration setup sheet. RS. Set the reserve selection to RC fixed reserve gallons. RC. Set the reserve capacity to 40 gallons held in reserve. DO. Set the day override to every 7 days. RT. Set the time of regeneration for override to 2:00 a.m. BW. Set the backwash to 8 minutes. BD. Set the brine draw to 45. RR. Set the rapid rinse to 8. BF. Set the brine fill to 16. FM. Set the flow meter type to 0.7, 3/4 turbine meter. Press the extra cycle button to save all settings and return to normal operation. Set the time to the correct current local time, hold the up or down arrows, and press the extra cycle button to accept. Check that the pre-filter shutoff valve and the pre-filter bleeder valve are set to the closed off position. Check that the hard water inlet and soft water inlet valves located above the RO are in the closed off position. Turn the city water in valve on Pivot's internal manifold, valve number 1, to the open on position very slowly. This valve will pressurize the entire system. Now that your valve number 1 is in the open position, it's time to check for leaks. Go ahead and look at Pivot's internal manifold system and all of the hoses and check for any leaks. If you do find a leak, simply go to that connection, take your adjustable wrench, and tighten and snug up that connection. Please be mindful not to over-tighten the connection. If the leak persists, go to valve number 1, shut the water supply off, remove the connection, clean the Teflon off the threads, reinsert your Teflon tape onto the threads, reconnect and snug down that connection, then turn on the water again. But also remember that at this point, everything downstream of the pre-filter is shut off. So you're not going to be able to check for leaks downstream of that system until a future step. Turn the pre-filter shutoff valve located on the PEX hose plumbed to the inlet of the pre-filter to the open on position. Slowly open the pre-filter bleeder valve to release air pressure from the pre-filter. Use your cup to capture any water exiting the pre-filter flush hose until all air is bled from the pre-filter. Alternatively, you could depress the red button located on top and towards the back of the pre-filter top to bleed air from the pre-filter. Check for any leaks from the pre-filter, and remember, you have a spare O-ring if there's a problem with the O-ring in the housing. After you have bled the air from the pre-filter in the previous step, use this bleeder valve and the hose attached to the bottom of that valve to test the TDS level of the water to provide the current baseline TDS value. This is also called the feed water TDS. Use your cup and TDS water meter and enter the value in the field on the online form. In this step, you're going to fill out the Pentair tag. Locate the Pentair service history tag in the clear plastic sleeve adhered to the inside of the right door of the water filtration unit. At this time, you need to complete the following information. Date of installation. Write the current date of installation. Installing tech. Write your name. Installation details. Write new pivot WFU. Feed water TDS. Write the value of the TDS from the previous step. And then finally, return this tag into that plastic sleeve. Plug the Grundfos booster pump into the provided R2 receptacle. Press the Start-Stop button and the light field for set point indication will illuminate. Press the up and down arrow until dashes 4 and 5 are illuminated. Dashes 4 and 5 illuminated represents 4.5 bar. Press and hold the first button, the extra cycle button, on the head unit until you see BW backwash on the display. This will initiate the first sequence in the startup cycle for the first tank, U1. When the BW sequence is complete, the control will automatically advance through the remaining sequences. BD brine draw, RR rapid rinse, and BF brine fill. This process will take approximately 80 minutes. After the BF sequence has finished, the service icon, the spigot, will appear in the bottom left corner of the display indicating the startup cycle has been completed for that first tank. Press and hold the extra cycle button to repeat the above process for the second tank, U2. This process will take approximately 80 minutes. There are 2 blend valves located on the RO near the rear of the unit. Check to make sure that the higher valve, the tap water blend valve, is completely closed, which means it is rotated completely clockwise. Then check to make sure that the lower valve, the dilution water blend valve, is completely open, which means that it is rotated completely counterclockwise. Turn the inlet soft water valve of the RO to the open on position. Pivot ships the water filtration unit with the output RO water valve in the closed off position. Check to make sure that this valve is in the closed off position. Insert the test hose into the pre-filter flush valve and route it to a drain source. Turn the pre-filter flush valve to the open on position to flush air out of the rear carbon filters. Continue flushing for a minimum of 2 minutes. Once the air is flushed out, turn this pre-filter flush valve to the closed off position. At this time, we're going to check to make sure that the rear carbon filters aren't leaking. First, inspect the rear carbon filters and look around them to make sure that there are no leaks. If you do find that they're leaking, go ahead and shut off the inlet soft water valve on the RO, relieve the pressure on the pre-filter flush valve, and remove the leaking rear carbon filter. Go ahead and inspect the O-rings, make sure they're properly seated and there are no cuts in the O-ring, and then reinsert the rear carbon filter into its housing. And then open the inlet soft water valve. If the leak persists, remove the rear carbon filter and go ahead and insert one of these plugs that you'll find on the bracket inside the water filtration unit. Turn the inlet soft water valve to the closed off position. Check that the storage tank valve is in the closed off position. This valve is located towards the bottom of the RO and towards the back of the unit. Install the two RO membranes into the RO. Remember to lubricate each O-ring with O-ring lubricant. Install the RO membrane into the RO. Install the RO membrane into the secondary RO membrane kit. Turn the soft and hard water inlet valves to the open-on position. These valves are located towards the top of the RO. Plug in the electrical plug for the RO into the R1 receptacle and verify on the display screen of the RO that the RO is powered up. In this step, we are going to flush the RO membranes. Connect the test hose to the storage tank drain sample valve located towards the bottom of the RO and the rear of the unit, and put the other end in your drain source. Turn this valve to the open-on position and let it run for 5 to 10 minutes to flush out the membranes. After the completion of the previous step, test the TDS using the water exiting the test hose on the storage tank drain sample valve utilizing your cup and TDS meter. The TDS should measure 5 or lower. If not, continue flushing and test the TDS again. If you are unable to get a TDS value of 5 or under, your membranes are not functioning correctly. Once you achieved a TDS value of 5 or under, turn the storage tank drain sample valve to the closed off position and the storage tank valve to the open on position and let the RO run until it stops. Please note that the RO will not shut down if the storage tank drain sample valve is not in the closed off position. This may take up to 30 minutes. Once it's complete, remove the test hose from the storage tank drain sample valve. Install the test hose on the post-filter flush valve. In this step, you're going to calibrate the RO output TDS to the blend back set point as provided on the Pentair service history tag or Pivot's WFU setup sheet. Open the post-filter flush valve and allow the water to flow for a few seconds. Then, capture a sample of the water in your cup and close the post-filter flush valve. Test this sample with your TDS meter. Increase the TDS by opening the tap water blend valve. This is the higher of the blend valves. Repeat this process until the desired TDS is reached, allowing the water to flow for a few seconds between TDS adjustments. If you overshoot the TDS value, turn the valve in the opposite direction to remove TDS. Once you have reached the desired TDS, turn the post-filter flush valve. to the closed off position and leave the blend valves in their current positions. Enter the TDS value achieved into the field on the online form. Unplug the power cord for the RO from the R1 receptacle. Turn the storage tank valve, inlet hard water valve, and the inlet soft water valve to the closed off position. Turn the post-filter flush valve to the open on position to relieve the pressure from the system. Otherwise, you will get wet when you perform the next step. When you finish relieving the pressure, turn this post-filter flush valve to the closed off position. Leave the test hose connected to this valve. In this step, we're going to install the front carbon filters. Remove the two front carbon filter plugs on the RO and place them onto the plug bracket located inside the water filtration unit. Locate and install the two front carbon filters into their receivers on the RO. When installing these filters, use the provided O-ring lubricant to lubricate all of the O-rings. Make sure they are properly seated. Turn the storage tank valve, inlet hard water valve, and the inlet soft water valve to the open on position. Your test hose should still be connected to the post-filter flush valve. Turn this valve to the open on position to flush air from the system. Flush for a minimum of 2 minutes. When you finish flushing air out, turn this post-filter flush valve to the closed off position. Remove the test hose from this valve, coil it up, and leave it inside the water filtration unit for future service. Turn the output RO water valve to the open on position. Plug in the power cord of the RO into the R1 receptacle of Pivot's power in module. This RO system will run for about 30 minutes until the blended tank is filled and the system is ready for production. Congratulations! You just completed the startup and calibration of Starbucks water filtration unit. Now to wrap up, you're going to want to make sure that the test hose is coiled up and placed back inside the unit. You're going to want to make sure that all of the documentation that you removed is returned back to this document pouch. You're going to want to make sure that the Pentair service history tag is in its plastic sleeve, and you're going to leave the keys inside the water filtration unit, and you're going to want to go ahead and close up the unit. Make sure that the site around you is all clean, and please make sure that you submit the online form that you've been filling out on Pivot's website. Otherwise, the product warranty will not start.